slope-intercept form is like it says 2 because, well, that's the second time we're doing it. When we're doing these, okay, if you're given a point, we're always going to plot the point first. So remember, it's always x before y, just like it is in the alphabet. And if I need to label my axes here so I know where they're at, that's good too. So if my line's going through the point 2, 1, how do I get to that point? Okay, go right to an up one, and I get my first point in there. So once I do that, my slope says 1/3. I do that second from the point I just made. How do I go 1/3? What's this slope thing? Perfect. Up 1 and right 3. So here's my point. I go up 1, right 3, put my next point, draw a line through it. Yep, just do those 2. Okay, but I have to put the points in, and I have to draw the line. Okay, so don't just be content with going, oh, I'm labeling it, I'm good. No, don't. Okay, and that's the same thing we're going to do all the way through here. So again, how am I going to get to the point 4, -1? Right 4, because x is positive. And down 1, so we'll get that put in there. Now my slope this time, we got a negative, -1/3. Okay. Negative always means down. So down 1, right 3, draw a line through there. Don't make it real complicated. Okay? It's always point first, slope second. Now, if it changes a little bit, okay, let's say, I'm going to go past 3 for now. If we want to come back, we can in a minute. Okay, now they don't tell me a point, now they just give me the y equals. So when I'm doing this, the number that's on the end, okay, that doesn't have an x with it, that's my y-intercept. I put int for short. That's always what I'm going to do first. So if my y-intercept is at -4, oh, okay. So what we're going to do is that y-intercept is my b. That always gets plotted first. It's on the y-axis. So since it's -4, am I going to go up 4, down 4? I'm going to go down, negative. Okay, put a dot. So then my slope is the number in front of x. Yes, if it's not a fraction, I need it to be 1. Why is what like that now? Okay, now, right, before when we were doing intercepts, okay, that's one way to be able to graph the line. So, if x and y were on the same side, you're right, I could cover up one or the other and figure out an intercept that way. When y is on a side by itself, which is more of the classic way we graph lines, they give us the 2 parts. They give us the y-intercept, sort of like what we were doing before. But now instead of giving us an x-intercept, they just tell us what the slope is. That's what the number in front of x is going to be. And so they're telling me that from that point I just made, I need to go 2 up and 1 to the right. And if I wanted to make more points to make my line more accurate, I could keep going up 2 and 1 to the right as far as I wanted to. And then draw my line through. But it's always going to be in this order. Y-intercept, or sometimes my point, like we did in 1 and 2, first, my slope second. Okay, on this particular one, the slope told me it was up 2, because my number on top tells me up or down. And then I went 1 to the right, because the number on the bottom tells me the left-right part. So I started here and I went up 2 and right 1. And we're going to do that again here on 5. Again, my number that's hanging out by itself is my y-intercept. I always have to do that first. Never is going to change. If it's positive, I go up 2 and I make a dot. We're going to do a couple of things here. We'll get there. So if my slope's negative 2 over 3, which directions am I going to go? Okay. Down 2, right 3. So down 2, right 3. Yeah, this is not bad. Not bad. 6, I'm going to try to speed up here a little bit. My y-intercept is 3. So it's positive. That goes up. Here's what I wanted to get to, though. What's my slope for 6? What's my m? Negative 1 over 1. Top number tells me up or down, so we're going to go down 1. Number on the bottom tells me right or left, and since it's positive, I go right. So down 1, right 1. I'm good. And then I'll just keep mentioning as we get to the next part. Okay, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do number 9. I know some of you with the slope are kind of getting like, okay, we've been doing that forever, Hardy. Okay, remember, slope, any 2 points, any 2 dots that you see, I'm going to count how many I go up or down and how many I go over. So since I go up 1, okay, that's positive 1, and I go right 2, that's positive 2. So my slope would be 1/2. However, let's say I was doing 8. Okay, let's say I decide, well, I'm going to go between these 2 points. Here I'm going down 2. So it would be negative 2. And I'm going right 1, which is positive 1. So the direction I go to get from dot to dot matters. And that's basically what we're looking at here. Okay? It's just helping me when I'm looking at a graph to see which directions I'm going. One last review here on the bottom of our x and our y's here. If it's y equals, first question, which direction do I go 5 to get to where y is going to equal 5? Okay, put it out. Whenever it's just, it does. Whenever it's y equals in just a number, Mr. Slope guy, in his kind of flat smile, tells us that we just go side to side. Okay, that's all I do here. My slope is 0. We remember Mr. Slope guy, his kind of dimples or his cheeks are zeros to remind us of that. And my y-intercept would just be the number. Okay, it would be 5, and this is good. To get to my x value of 5, I'd go right 5. X equals is always going to be a vertical line. But here's where this one gets a little interesting. Vertical lines have undefined slopes, like Mr. Slope guy's nose with that U at the bottom to remind me that it's undefined. Even if you just wrote UND, that'd be fine. This never crosses the y-axis. So my y-intercept, I wouldn't have one. None. Yes. On the back. All right, we're heading to the back right now, actually. I'll give a couple of you minutes to finish that last couple up, and I'm going to flip over. And we're just going to take a look at why we do some of the things we do. Because if you can explain it, basically you've got concept down at that point. So, to the back we go. I'll come back to the front momentarily if you need it. All right. Numero uno. Graph the equation negative 3x plus 4. What's my y-intercept in this first one? 4. That on 4. So from there, what's my slope and where am I going? Absolutely. Down 3 and right 1. And then I could go down 3 and right 1. Ooh, I didn't draw an accurate line. Well, I should put more points in. Down to, oh, party. Good grief. That's just bad. Wow, look at the change in my line just from drawing a couple of extra points. A lot more accurate. So I need to kind of work on that. What you could see to make sure that your graph is right. We'll only do this for one of them, just so you can see how it works. So let's say I choose this point. This point's at 1, 1. What I could do is I could take my equation that I have, and I could plug a 1 in each place that I have a variable. And if I've got the right point, if my point's on the line, the two sides should equal. So negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, plus 4 is 1. And since the two sides equal, that point, 1, 1, is accurately on my line. If I'd have gone by what I drew the first time with my dark line, man, I could have been way off on some of my points, and I'd have found that out if I'd have put some in. So it's one reason putting some extra points is absolutely a good idea. And then the last thing, and I try to do these every once in a while, again, just to get you to think about it. It's been proven that if you write what you're doing or have to explain it somehow, it tends to stick a little better. All right, last one. Graph the equation. I'm going to make my axes a little bit darker here so you can see them. All right. Y-intercept, negative 2. Okay, always the number hanging out by itself on the end. We're not going to go that quick. We're going to do a couple of steps, but not a whole paragraph. Where are we going? I'm sorry. Up 3 and right 4. I'm going to do that again here. Up 3, right 1, 4. I want an accurate line here, unlike my first one that I attempted. Now, it says write a paragraph. Okay, I'm not going to go to a paragraph, but when you're graphing a line, what do you do? Okay, plot the y-intercept. We're going to do this more like a business model. We're just going to do PowerPoint points. Perfect. Okay, go slope, and that's perfect. In this case, it's up 3, right 4. Okay, perfect. Okay, so once I plot my y-intercept, I'm going to go slope and plot my second dot. And then for step 3, you can either repeat step 2, which is probably a good idea, because again, we saw up in number 1, I wasn't very good about drawing that. We're going to repeat step 2, and finally, draw the line. Much better than dealing with a paragraph. We're in a society now that we just do short little things. Heck, Twitters, stuff like that. Twitters, oh my god, tweets, sorry. Twitters, that was terrible. At least I caught myself with that. But we just kind of, start to think about things that way and kind of work them through. So now, as we always do, we start on this packet, this monstrously huge, awful, nasty packet that I gave you. Okay? I'm going to jump in and do a big chunk with you. Okay? Background here. Thank you. Okay? All we're doing here on the front and on the back of this first sheet is exactly what we were doing back in the notes we were just getting done with. I'm still going to just plot my y-intercept first. So I go up 3, put a dot. With negative, I go down and put a dot. What's my slope this time? All right. So the slope, since I don't see a number in front of x, is 1 over 1. Okay, we always want slope to be a fraction. So from that first point that I made, I want to go up 1 and right 1. And like Allie mentioned when we were doing the note sheet, I'd like to do that as many times as I can because we'd like to get an accurate line. So we draw that through and we're good. So don't make life more complex than you need to. For number 3 on the y-intercepts, look that up. Let's take a look. Number 3, yeah, when I'm doing my y-intercept, I would treat that like a -2. Yeah, look at the sign in front of it. So which way am I going to be going to on number 3? Down. And then what's my slope going to be? Okay, up 2 and right 1. Thank you for making sure. Yeah, we want to start working on left and right, not just doing over, because over can be both directions. So up 2 and right 1. 2 and right 1. Up 2 and right 1. Going that crazy. Up 2 and right 1. Draw my line. Still got to keep stressing. Got to draw that line at the end. Number 6. Oh, I'm being pulled. All right, let me flip. Good question. Okay, if I flip over to the back of this sheet, that's something we haven't talked about as much. What happens if that negative's just sitting in front? What's the deal? I can put the negative on either number, but not both. So like here, maybe I'll scribble it out there and I'll put it up here with the 1 instead. Okay, that's an option I have. But if you see the negative, it only goes on one of them. You could do -2 if you wanted to and leave the 1 as 1. Absolutely. Yes. So like here, my y-intercept is still at +1. So I go up 1 for that. There's my y. So if I decided to put the negative on the 1, where would I be going for slope? Down 1, right 2. Now, down 1 and right 2. Just to prove a point, because it was interesting when Chris said, well, what if I put the negative on the 2? Okay, if I put the negative on the 2 instead, what directions would I be going? Up and left. So I'd go up 1 and left 2. It would be exactly on the same graph. Correct. Yep, no, it's an excellent question because, sometimes we need flexibility. Maybe a graph won't let me make as many points one direction. So we're dealing with y equals a little more. We're making that work better. But then, of course, Hardy has to throw a twist in. Just because I'm crazy that way. You get down to 9 and 10, you're like, what's up with this? Okay, I'm giving you intercepts instead. If the x-intercept's at -2, what direction am I going to go to and put a dot? The x-intercept, left. Because x is left or right. It's left. So we're going to go left 2. And since my y is negative and y goes up and down to -5, and I only got those 2 dots to work with, so I better be accurate when I draw. But again, nothing awful. It's just getting used to all these different things and being able to interchange them. It's like going to do a job and you got more tools in your toolbox to work with. It is. So we're just trying to get you some different ones. What's that? So then we add one more thing when we get to the last page. Notice these aren't all solved for y yet. So when I get back to this page, my first job is to get y alone. So like on number 12, if I want to get y alone, how do I get that 2x out of there? Subtract it. And I'm going to subtract it from both sides. And just a reminder, because it's been a day since we've done this is not just 2x now. This has x and this doesn't. I write the x part first, and I write the plain number part second, because now it looks like all the things we've been graphing. So actually, let me put an arrow here, so it's going to go down here. Once I have y alone, and I have to have it alone, then I can get my y-intercept from there. If it's positive, I go up, and you're like, okay, I already heard you say this 15 times now. And my slope is negative 2 over 1. Down 2 and right 1. Down 2 and right 1. Right. Not for now, no, because I have a plan for them. Yeah, you do not need to make, like 7 dots like I did here. No, you actually have an option. And then just to make sure I've done one of everything, I don't want to be accused I haven't. I'm going to drop down to 16. Oh. Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. I'll move down just a bit here. I believe this should be the last one. What's my one step in 16 to get y by itself? Divide everything by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, so 2x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my y-intercept is positive 4, so I'll go up 4, put a dot. Then my m is 2 over 1. Again, I want it to be a fraction. So I go up 2 and right 1. Now I'm going to go dot crazy here because I want my line to be nice. And that's basically all we're up to in here. So again, plenty of time to knock this out and still have time to mess around at the end. What? That whole packet already?